All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's Questline Digital webinar, Strategies for High Bill Communications. My name is Maureen Murky, and I'm the producer and host for today's webinar. Before we begin, we want to cover just a few housekeeping items with you. First, if you have any questions during the webcast, you can submit them through the Q&A section, which is to the right of the presentation window. We will try to answer all questions during the webcast, but if a more in-depth answer is needed or we run out of time, they will be answered later via email. Some networks may cause slides to advance more slowly than others, so logging off of your VPN is recommended. If your slides do fall behind, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. If you experience any other disruptions during the broadcast, please also use the Q&A for any technical questions. We will be sending everyone a follow-up email, which will include a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation and the playback link to the recording of today's webinar. We will also be conducting poll questions during the presentation and would greatly appreciate your participation in those. The results of those polls can also be viewed by accessing the Polls tab from the widget at the bottom of your screen. There will also be a brief survey at the conclusion of this event, and I will provide further details toward the end of the webinar on completing that. Please be aware that you are not the only participant today. The names of the other attendees are not being shown to you for privacy. Now, let me introduce today's presenters. Morgan Kriley is a Customer Experience Associate at Duquesne Light Company. She has been with DLC for a year and is passionate about developing targeted multi-channel marketing campaigns using customer data and behavior. At DLC, she coordinates marketing efforts with departments including beneficial electrification, credit and collections, and energy efficiency to drive customer engagement and enrollment in various programs. Shantel Johnson is the Senior Marketing Manager in the Customer Centricity Organization at Entergy. Shantel led strategic marketing efforts for 13 years in healthcare before transferring to the utility industry. The Louisiana Hospital Association previously honored Shantel as Marketer of the Year. She holds a Master's in Business Administration and a Bachelor's in Marketing from the University of New Orleans. Now, before I pass it off to our speakers, let's talk a little bit about high bills. Today's topic is a very hot topic, pun intended, for many utilities in attendance in today as well as across the nation. The supply chain shortages we're all seeing have affected everything, from our holiday Target purchases to our energy bills. As professionals in the utility industry, we know that the rising energy prices are in response to numerous events, like the supply chain shortages, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the surge in price of natural gas. Customers, though, may not know this information. So without that background knowledge that we do, they may see an increase in their energy bills and they may feel threatened or angry at their utility. This is why high bill communications are so important. We are all customers in our own right, and we know how unexpected price increases feel just as much as our utility customers. It's important that we bring customers into the know and help them understand not only why these price increases are occurring, but what they can do to help themselves save both energy and money. So that's why we're talking today, to share helpful advice and tips on high bill communication strategies that will help your utility, but more importantly, your customers. So with that, let's talk about our agenda. In today's webinar, we'll hear from Morgan and Shantel about their utility's focus on high bill communications and how they strategize those communications. We'll then dive into a fireside chat Q&A discussion to learn more about their work. We have plenty of questions to ask them, but please feel free to submit your own questions throughout the webinar. Before I pass this off, though, to Morgan and Shantel, I'd like to begin today with a poll question for all of you in the audience. So let me go ahead and push that out to you. It's an easy question to start with. The question is, does your utility currently have any high bill communication strategies in place? Your options are yes, no, or you're working on it. I will give it just a few minutes for those responses to roll in. I know that both Morgan and Shantel have a plethora of information to share and advice. So wherever you are in your high bill communications, I know you'll hear some great takeaways today. So responses are coming in. I'll give it just another minute. Again, does your utility currently have any high bill communication strategies in place? Yes, no, or working on it. All right, so it does look like we have slowed down the responses, so I will go ahead and close that poll. Reminder, you can see any of these closed poll responses by going to that poll widget that you have by clicking at the bottom of your screen. So it looks like most people do currently have high bill communication strategies, but right up close second is people are working on it. So that's great to see. I hope that today provides a lot of great takeaways for you. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it off to Morgan to get us started and tell us about high bill communications at Duquesne Light Company. Morgan?
Thanks, Maureen. So DLC launched several communication efforts throughout the high bill season to educate our customers on the reason for their high bills and to provide them with actionable strategies to lower their billing costs. A few of these efforts included targeted email campaigns, digital content, and paid social campaigns. Our messaging that we wove into our entire strategy was focused on being our customers' trusted energy partner. So, in the context of our high bill awareness efforts, being a trusted energy partner to our customers means that we're providing reliable service, charging fair price, providing good value, and most importantly, in these times, is being honest and transparent with them. So our approach was to identify the main drivers of why our customers were experiencing such high bills during this season, which we did know were going to be an increase in rates and, of course, an increase in usage due to the higher temperatures of this season. DLC deploys studies to a panel of DLC customers who are representative of our overall residential base to get further insights into specific offerings, as well as gather insights on their attitudes and perceptions towards the company. We also utilize personas, which are groups of customers based on demographic and behavioral data, to provide us insights into which customers to target for different programs and the best messaging that's going to resonate with these customers. So these high bill factors combined with our insights help to guide the development of customer choice, rising energy prices, energy efficiency, and high bill management campaigns that we developed during the season, all of which were driven to educate our customers and, again, provide them with actionable strategies to reduce and manage their high bills. So one of the first high bill related campaigns we launched was related to customer choice. So as a little bit of background, under Pennsylvania's Electric Choice Act, customers can choose or shop for the supplier that provides their electricity, which does impact the supply portion of their bill. And while it's not mandatory for customers to shop for a supplier, they can choose the company based on factors such as savings, clean energy sources, and fixed and variable rates. And these suppliers often offer incentives and introductory rates to enroll with them. So as an electric distribution company, Duquesne Light is neutral into whether a customer wants to shop. And through our research, we found that overall, our residential audience didn't have a strong understanding on this topic and had some questions when they evaluated our existing resources. In addition, our customers who were enrolled with a supplier were part of a group of customers we identified were more likely to be enrolled in auto pay and budget billing, so they may not be monitoring their month-to-month costs or looking into their billing details. In addition, we found that about 80% of those customers were paying a rate that was higher above the default service rate, which could lead to a reason why their bill was higher than it was because the rate their supplier enrolled them in had changed. So with these insights, we identified a major opportunity to initiate conversations about customer choice and educate our customers on their options and how that would impact their monthly bill. We did an overhaul of the website by developing extensive website content with tutorials on how to shop and frequently asked questions. And we also launched a 90-second video campaign giving an overview of customer choice. We drove traffic to these resources through newsletter features, posting on our social media, and launching a social and display ad campaign that was targeted to groups of customers based on age range and who had a high propensity to be interested in shopping for a supplier. We also launched a targeted email communications sent specifically to customers who were enrolled with the supplier And this campaign saw high engagement as we were educating the customers it was most relevant to address. Although we weren't able to directly say that the reason why their bill was high was because of their rate, because of our position as an electric distribution company, we did take them through the steps of how to check their rate and make the decision if they wanted to switch. Now, while these supplier rates only impacted certain groups of customers who were shopping, we also did have 2 rate increases that impacted our residential customers. So back in January and June, we did have the rate increases, and we knew that customers were going to notice that higher bill because of the increase, because they were going to be comparing what they spent last year directly to that new bill. So the honesty and transparency piece played a major role in this campaign. And we created web resources with several different avenues, from customer choice, customer energy efficiency programs, and payment assistance, all in this one hub so that customers could reference it. And to make this web resource readily available as possible, we created a banner on our webpage that linked to an overview of why and how energy prices were rising and what customers could do about it. So this link was incorporated into newsletter content, social media posts, and also the targeted email campaign that I mentioned earlier regarding suppliers. So moving into how we communicated with our customers from a usage perspective, in recent research, we found that about half of our customers are actively monitoring to reduce their electric usage. They're closely monitoring their thermostat and using lights and electronics very cautiously. So customers really want to know how to best use their energy and when. Now, on a regular cadence, DLC promotes educational content and energy efficiency programs such as home weatherization, rebates, and sales through our marketplace, as well as recycling programs. And we promote this through our newsletters and social media, as well as weekly usage reports, which are sent to all of our customers with an email on file, and they're able to analyze their weekly usage and compare it to last week's, as well as determine their projected use for the month. There's also a high bill alert email, which automatically deploys when a customer's bill has increased significantly compared to the same period of last year. And in that communication, we help identify customers' behaviors that would cause a high bill and what they can do to reduce it come their following bill cycle. Now, beyond our typical educational content and programs, our energy efficiency team helped address the needs of customers who may be struggling with their high bill, improve their satisfaction with the company, and again, bolster the idea that we are their trusted energy partner that's here to help them. In the research I mentioned earlier, one verbatim we found in the study said, "How can I make my home most efficient with the least amount of money?" So we worked with this team to support their energy conservation kit initiative, which was a free kit eligible for all residential customers and included LED light bulbs and night lights. We promoted this through many avenues of communication. We promoted it on our social media, such as Facebook and Nextdoor, our Here to Help web resource, as well as our residential newsletter in a snippet. The main driver of this initiative, though, was a targeted email campaign to one of our customer personas, which we developed based on their likelihood to engage in an email promotion and showed interest in energy efficiency measures. This saw the highest enrollment from that email in particular. So the combination of the rate increases and an increase in usage created the perfect storm for a high bill. We knew customers were going to be comparing what they spent last summer to their current bill. And we especially saw an increase in call volume from the call center, with customers asking about their high bills and what they could do. So the driver of this communication was primarily empathy, followed by education and action-oriented steps. In this email campaign, DLC recognized their responsibility to our customer, and again, utilizing the trusted energy message. We wanted to show customers we were transparent about the changing energy rates and provide them with valuable strategies to manage their current bill and reduce their usage for future bills. We provided customers with the same resources that a customer service representative would provide them with if the customer were to call in, but from a self-serve aspect. We provided them with 4 actionable steps, the first being the customer choice aspect, which I mentioned first. And we found that the more that we mentioned this to customers, the more likely they were going to take action after seeing it a couple times. And we also promoted our budget billing program so that customers could manage that cost of their high bill that they just received. And this portion of the campaign was really testament to the importance of reaching the right customer at the right time. We saw more enrollments from that email compared to a targeted email campaign that we launched prior to the high billing season. So it really showed that until customers see that first or second high bill deploy, they're not going to see the relevance in a program that is going to help them level out those highs and lows of their bill. And then the last part was related to energy efficiency, actionable steps, and then finally the energy efficiency kit giveaway, which was available to all of our customers. And we saw a really good boost in enrollment of these customers. And overall, the campaign was a success. So I will turn it back to you, Maureen. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Morgan. I loved hearing how you really made everything transparent for your customers and really put the resources into their hands for them to learn about how to help out with their own bills. So that's great. Before I pass this over to Shantel, let's do another poll question. I'm going to go ahead and push that out to you all right now. You should see that popping up for you. And the question is, what programs does your utility currently have to assist high bill customers? Your options are budget billing, energy efficiency education, payment assistance, or all of the above, or none of the above. Morgan just talked about a lot of the wonderful programs that DLC offers, so let's see what other utilities in the audience are doing. Go ahead and keep that open for just a minute longer. Responses are still flowing in. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating in these polls today. It's really fun to see what everyone else is working on right now. All right, we're almost there. Some last people are coming in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Thank you again. Let's see what those responses tell us. So, majority of you are doing all of the above, which is fantastic to see. You're all doing payment assistance, energy efficiency, education. The top one of those 3 is the energy efficiency education, which is fantastic for your customers. So wonderful job, everybody. So now I will pass it off to Shantel, who will go ahead and cover her high bill strategies from Entergy. Shantel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maureen. As was previously stated, this summer has brought some of the hottest weather on record, reaching 3-digit temperatures, especially across our service area, which has also led to record level energy usage. To ease the pain of higher energy bills and in consultation with our regulators, Entergy has taken steps to help our residential customers during the high usage summer months. So the focus of our high bills campaign, as you can see in this creative, is that temps are up, costs are up, so we're stepping up. Our customer strategy leaders gathered a large group of us together to ideate programs that would make a meaningful difference to customers during this time. And those programs are what I'm going to share a bit about today. New solutions for high summer bills. These are some of the more popular programs that we are offering in addition to our usual bill assistance programs. I should state that these programs look different among our different service areas. We serve 4 states Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. So these programs are nuanced based on the customer needs and the regulatory environment in those communities. Late fee credits. We're crediting late payment fees for customers who incurred those. In one state, to be eligible for the late fee credits, customers needed to verify their household income being less than $40,000 a year, but no documentation was required as a part of that process. Credit card fee credits, you all are familiar with those, and the number of months that we offered this would vary by state. Something I know many of us are familiar with is the moratorium on disconnects for non-payment. Many of us implemented this during the height of COVID, and we've reinstituted that program for the high bills effort, particularly in New Orleans. Energy efficiency events, Morgan spoke a bit about this. We've organized employee volunteers to conduct energy efficiency and weatherization events in select neighborhoods, and in many instances partnered with local leaders and nonprofits to identify customers who might have needed the assistance the most. One of the most popular programs is the $10 million in shareholder donations. So how does this program look for customers? This is a one-time $150 bill credit for qualifying customers. And to qualify, customers must have a total household income of up to 250% of the federal poverty level, which equates to about $69,000 for a family of four. So this was a part of the targeting criteria that we used to ensure that we reach the right customers with the right messages. We also partnered with local nonprofit agencies, primarily the United Way, to help us distribute those funds. And for one of our service areas, we primed the market with targeted messages leading up to the launch date. And for this particular program, the launch date was set as August 17th, I believe. And that online application process opened up at 9 a.m. And by 4 p.m., the funds were accounted for. So we did share in our messaging that the funds would be available on a first come, first served basis to kind of limit customers being surprised by that. But this was quite a successful endeavor and spoke to the need in our community. Something different that one of our OPCOs implemented is a early return of security deposits. One of the operating companies, they just took a look at the payment history of their customers, and whereas we would typically apply those returns at the 13th month, they've decided to go ahead and push that up to the 9th or 10th month and have them applied early to provide customers more immediate relief. So each of our operating companies were very thoughtful in their approach about these programs to step up our efforts to better assist our community. In terms of strategy and execution, this was definitely an all hands on deck effort. I was 7 weeks into the job when this call was made, where we gathered together to talk about what programs might be offered and discuss the marketing strategies to reach customers. And I was very impressed by the work that our team did with such a short turnaround time to execute on everything. But it definitely involves constant communication. So we have daily work stream huddles to discuss programs and to just talk about the rollout, because some of our operating companies continue to roll out these programs and are on different timelines. And even as we turn our attention to the resumption of the dunning process and the discontinuing of the moratorium, just discussing how do we ensure customers are prepared for that and that it doesn't catch them off guard. So constant communication is definitely underway. We also are implementing customer surveys that are done each week, and we do survey a random selection of about 30,000 customers. And we're interested in knowing what programs and messages are resonating with them and looking at message recall by channel to ensure that we have an appropriate mix of channels at play. Of course, we've also done some mass media efforts with this marketing initiative, including billboards and all the usual things. We also had commercials during Saints games, so that was pretty cool to see while I was watching sports over the weekend. But the goal overall was to drive awareness of the new solutions that we are offering to customers during this difficult time. So direct-to-customer channels. I was more directly involved in this direct messaging work. And as you can see, we're deploying emails, texts, and calls to reach customers more directly. And we're often using third-party income data to define our customer list to focus on those who need bill assistance the most. Something that Questline helped us with was our email campaign. And a part of the messaging is continuing to reiterate that we are offering these new solutions for high summer bills. In terms of engagement, this open rate was particularly strong for us. We have an average open rate of about 35% or so. So seeing nearly 54% was pretty solid. And we continue to see this level of engagement for our email campaign. I've also included here a few stats from our SMS and voice campaigns, which also perform pretty well. In this text example, we continue to talk about here the full context of the environment that we're in, experiencing unusually high temperatures and fuel costs, and how we're doing more to assist customers and providing, of course, the website for more information. Just to close, I wanted to underscore the importance of keeping your customer contact center informed, especially if you all are in an environment like we are, where we are continuing to roll out programs throughout this event. So we provide almost daily updated one voice talking points to our call center with the latest information about the programs for each state. Just as a caution, we've experienced an uptick in scam messaging to our customers and messages that are circulating on social media, which leads to a lot of inaccurate information in the market. And so we want to be proactive in how we address that, because when customers are confused and may not know who to trust, of course, they call the call center to seek clarity. And we want to be, equipped with the proper information to help customers decipher what's from Entergy and what's not. So collaboration is always key as we embark on crisis communication strategies like these. So that's a bit about the High Bills campaign that we offered here at Entergy. Now I'll turn it back over to you, Maureen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shantel. I love your all hands on deck approach over at Entergy. And I really love the different ways that you try to reach and connect with your customers. The fact that you did a commercial during the football game, so fun. Love that. All right. Before we get over to Q&A, I know we're all excited. I know I have a lot of questions. A lot of questions have come in. Keep sending them in. But we are going to go ahead and do our final poll question. So I will go ahead and start the polling for you all. The question for you right now is, what communication methods does your utility use to get in touch with customers about high bills? Email, phone call, text, social media, direct mail, all of the above, or other are your options. Shantel shared a lot of different ways in which Entergy gets in touch with its customers. So it'll be really fun to see how each of you in our audience are connecting with your own customers. So per usual, I will go ahead and let that poll run for just a couple minutes here. Reminder, the widget so that you could see all the responses for the closed polls is at the bottom of your screen. And the Q&A will always be open, so feel free to send in a question whenever one comes into your mind. All right, the responses are slowing down here just a bit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close up that poll. Thank you so much. It looks like our responses are really varied, which is great to see. It means you're reaching out in a lot of different ways. The top one, though, is email. Of course, great channel, followed by social media and direct mail. There were a few of you who put other, so I'm going to go ahead and open up this second poll. So if you did select other, go ahead and put in another response there for what that other may have been for you. We always love to see what you guys are doing, and we always love the sharing of responses here. So I'll just leave that open for just a minute before I move on to Q&A. Questions are still coming in. I love to see it. All right, I'm gonna go. Oh, perfect. A lot of those just came in right now. Wonderful. It looks like you guys are doing some media relations, some magazines, inserts, your website, of course, wonderful. Newsletters through your app. Great, great, great. All right, that is awesome. I'll go ahead and close up that poll. Oh, another one came in. Your My Account profile. Love it. All right, I will go ahead and close that poll. Thank you so much for providing those responses and for providing your responses throughout today's segment. So with that, I will ask Morgan and Shantel to please come back to the stage, if you will, and we will go ahead and get started with a Q&A. Awesome. Okay, so we have a lot of questions. I'm going to jump in here with the first one. Morgan, I'll pass this off to you to kick us off. Shantel, jump in whenever you want. So the first question is, what are your biggest challenges when communicating about high bills?
Well, I think the first is it's a very emotional topic for customers who see that bill at the end of the month and they weren't expecting such a high cost. So a lot of customers are calling in and wondering what they can do. And some customers even think it's their meter's fault. So again, really educating those customers and providing them with resources that they can do to manage their bill with budget billing and some payment assistant resources we have, but also addressing their upcoming bills with those energy efficiency measures. And I think for DLC in particular, one of the challenges we faced was reaching the customers through the channels that they prefer. We do a lot of digital methods through social media and emails, but reaching those customers who prefer call center interaction or through text messaging, our PUC is a little limited when it comes to text and voice calls when it's not outage related. So we went hard in those other digital channels to try to reach as many customers as possible.
Awesome. Anything to add, Shantel?
Not much to add.
All right. I'll go ahead and move over to the next question. Morgan, you may have answered this already, but let's go ahead and put it out there anyway. Jamie is wondering if the energy efficiency kit was available to all of DLC's customers.
Yes, it was available to all of our residential customers, and it was launched in August, and it's still ongoing, but we've seen about, from that one campaign, 30% enrollment rate in the customer kit.
Awesome. That's great news. All right, this next question, Shantel, I'm going to put to you to answer first, and then Morgan, you can jump in. The question is, what part of your high bill communication strategy do you think is the most effective?
I mean, of course, it all works together, right? But I would say that direct customer channels, like the calls and emails where we can target specific audiences and be able to measure the results, would be my preferred channels there. And you could see the reach and the results that we've received from those efforts. So those would be the channels that I would say perform the strongest.
Awesome. Morgan, anything else that you wanted to mention for DLC's portion?
Yeah, I'd echo what Shantel said, especially the part about reaching the right customer. Some customers are definitely more interested in how they can save on their bill than others.
Definitely. Awesome, thank you. My next question here is directed for you, Morgan, for DLC. First, kudos. They say, great campaign and very thoughtful. Then they asked, did DLC provide personalized estimates of upcoming bills in the campaign? If yes, were there any instances where your estimate of residential customer bills differed from actuals, and how did you explain this to customers? A lot there. I'll repeat it if you need me to.
So for the campaigns that I specifically stated, those were ad hoc, and they didn't include any specific data. But for the weekly reports and the high bill alerts, those did include usage, and not that I know of, we got any inaccurate data reports. So I'm hoping that because I wasn't aware of it, that didn't happen. But certainly there are some customers who were checking that and using that religiously, and it would reflect on their bill.
Perfect. Thank you, Morgan. All right, let's see what our next one here is. This one looks like it is directed for Shantel. They ask, did the shareholder donations only go to customers in areas or any income eligible customers? In residential areas, I think is what that says.
In arrears. So those customers who would qualify, we did use the federal poverty income levels to help us determine the qualifications. And we were particularly focused on those in that 150% to 250% of the federal poverty levels. So that's what we used as the application criteria for those customers. And again, we used our third party, we used partners like United Way to help us with that application process, but that criteria was based on income, not arrears level.
Perfect, thank you. All right, next question. I will let either of you answer, so whichever one wants to answer first. But how do you determine who is a potential high bill customer when you're sending out communications?
So I would say, given the environment, many of us are high bill customers. We're all experiencing the inflationary pressures. So what we looked at was more so not just targeted efforts, but we wanted mass awareness about all that we were doing to step up our efforts, and then begin to speak with customers directly about what programs could assist them. Some cases, we are using income criteria to help us determine that target audience. In other cases, it might be appropriate to use arrears balances to assist with that. Morgan might have more she'd like to share on that.
Yes, I would agree. Even if a high bill was over $250 for some customers, depending on the size of their household, that could vary. So we didn't really specifically target based on the amount, but we, like Shantel said, really wanted to reach as many customers as possible because, like I said before, some customers might find it more important and might find it more important now than, say, a couple months ago or the previous year.
Absolutely. Thank you both. All right, this next question is back to Morgan for DLC. How many customers is DLC serving, and what software are you using to send these communications?
So our customer base is about 500,000 customers. We serve just 2 counties in the Pittsburgh region. And the campaigns that I showed were actually sent through the Engage platform through Questline. And we worked with them to develop some imagery for a few of the campaigns. And then we used their ad hoc messaging system to develop campaigns with our communication and customer experience teams.
Awesome, thank you. We love partnering with DLC. So next question here is for Shantel for Entergy. You mentioned that you use a third-party resource to break down your customer income data. What resource do you use?
Oh, yeah. So I'd imagine there are a lot of third parties that you could use for this, but we use acing data for that income information. And I have to say it's not 100% accurate, but it is the best data we have available to us, and we do use it for these targeted efforts.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to go right back for you, Shantel. Next question. What questions did you ask customers in the weekly survey? And did you ask the same customers the same questions each week?
Each week. Great questions. So we asked questions about different program offerings and whether or not, how customers perceive those programs in terms of was it meaningful assistance to them. So we did gauge that. We also asked about the channel preference that they have and how they recalled having heard about messaging, if they indicated that they heard messages in the market. So it's interesting, the feedback that we get there, and we know sometimes people don't recall accurately, but if it's what they recall hearing, it's interesting to see. And then the latter part of the question was about, there was another piece of that question I wanted to address. Oh, are we surveying the same customers each week? So it's a random selection of 30,000 customers each week. So it's not necessarily the same customers, but we do intend to ask them the same question. We do have an opportunity to adjust those questions if there's something that we would like to have addressed that we haven't, but haven't asked. But it's essentially supposed to be the same survey to a random selection of 30,000 customers each week.
Perfect.
I think that addressed all of that.
Yep,
question.
that seemed like it did. Thank you so much. All right, next question here. Let's see here. This will be for either of you. How have customers responded to your high bill communications? Have you seen them respond in terms of what resources and education you've been providing?
We've seen pretty high engagement results compared to other email campaigns, especially with that high bill campaign. Usually the click rate as the email goes down in content, it decreases. But in this case, the energy efficiency kit, which was at the bottom of the email, saw 40% clicks within the content. So really showed that customers are reading through this content, interested in it. And we saw a lot of opens and repeat opens. So it's our inclination to believe that maybe customers were reopening it, saving the email, and referring back to it as they needed it.
Awesome. Shantel, did you want to mention anything before I move to the next question?
I was just going to indicate we're looking at this collectively, but also on a state-by-state basis. And again, some of our states are further along in their program offerings than others. But it's interesting to see that those who do have programs out in the market, and we are, full force marketing those efforts to customers, there is a difference in positive perceptions among those that we are actively offering these programs for. So that's been pretty interesting to see that difference. So it does make a positive difference working in advance to communicate to customers what you're doing to assist them during times like these. Absolutely.
Great point. All right. This next question, Shantel, maybe you'll want to start. It has to do with the outreach that you do for customers. So ask, how do you handle social media comments or questions during high bill seasons? I know social media, sometimes people take it by the storm. So is there any kind of strategy you have in place for those responses?
Yeah, so we did have an uptick in social engagement, and we stood up and activated our social desk to address those questions and concerns that customers were having and sharing with us online. So we were proactive in engaging with them, and those one voice talk points is critical in that messaging strategy. So that's how we addressed it, just with a social activation desk focused on it. Originally, we were operating it, I can't get the hours right, but for a much longer period of time throughout the day. And since it's over several weeks, some of the engagement has waned. So we've backed up to maybe 9 to 5 schedule addressing those comments, but it was definitely a concerted effort to get some folks dedicated to monitoring those responses and listening to what customers are saying to us so that we can take that information and see if we can develop better programs to assist them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Social media isn't just about, writing things down. You have to listen as well. Morgan, anything from DLC's side?
Yes. So we did kind of refer our customers to our call center representatives because it seemed clear that those were the customers that wanted to discuss and wanted an explanation that maybe they didn't find on the web page or one of our resources. So we were referring our representatives to reach out to those customers.
Nice. That's a great point. Awesome. Thank you both. This next question is also for both of you. It asks, did either company do anything or have unique funds available to those customers who don't traditionally meet the federal poverty guidelines? They say that we know that many customers outside these guidelines are experiencing challenges that perhaps they have not experienced previously.
Yes, I think that speaks to the effort that we did with the $10 million in shareholder donations. They were not limited to those low-income earners. We were targeting more moderate income earners. If we just use the federal poverty levels as a guide for that criteria. And again, we were targeting the 150 to 250% range for that.
And so I know I did not cover payment assistance at all in my presentation, but one of the things DLC did was expand our income guidelines for the Dollar Energy Fund eligibility. So we expanded it from 150 to 300% within the federal poverty income guidelines. And we did do a targeted email campaign to those customers within the 150 to 300 range that previously wouldn't really think that they would apply for assistance or qualify. And we sent out targeted messages to them as well.
Awesome. Thank you both. All right. Next question here. Morgan, maybe you'll start with this one since you had just mentioned about call centers. So they ask, do you create or provide talking points to your call center reps? Would you be willing to share any of those tips?
Yes, so I'm not closely related to the call center, but I do know that they take the customer through their usage and a series of questions and steps. If you'd like to email me, I could provide you with some more information on our strategy.
Perfect. And Shantel and Morgan's emails are both in this presentation deck, so that will get emailed out to everybody. So nice little plug right there. Okay, let's look at these next questions. Okay, next question. Morgan, we'll start with you again for this one. What do you have in the pipeline for your high bill communications? Do you anticipate any changes, especially as the weather starts to change?
So one of our plans is to relaunch the budget billing campaign that we launched earlier in the season, which Questline actually created for us. We'll be relaunching that because, like I said before, customers are now realizing that their bills are high and they could use budget billing in their life. So that's one of the upcoming plans. We will continue to launch energy efficient content in our newsletter. But in terms of high bills, that'll likely decrease. And as we move into The heating season, though, we're going to be focusing on more assistance programs that customers apply for.
Perfect. Shantel, anything to add?
Just same here. We try to communicate even with the new solutions that we are offering. Made sure that on our website we address the usual solutions that are out there and bill assistance programs that we make available. So we'll continue to push those because they are always available to assist customers. And it's just a situation where customers have a lot going on and they're not always aware of the various ways that we can support them. But that's what we'll continue to do. And in terms of winter, I feel like Texas, Louisiana, it's always summer, it feels like, but I don't exactly know what the winter strategies are, but as I learned the utilities industry, but I'm interested to see how and if our programs will change as a result of the change in the season.
Absolutely. It'll be a fun learning curve there.
Yes, for sure.
All right, wonderful. Next question here. Let's see. The question is, what do you think are the most important parts or components of a high bill strategy when you're starting your planning?
I would say that the customers are given actionable and feasible steps. We can't tell customers to go install an energy efficient AC unit. It might be out of their means, but giving those small tips and tricks really seem to resonate with customers. And even that energy efficiency kit that we gave away, even though it was a small gesture, it showed customers that we are thinking of them, and it did make a difference.
Wonderful.
I would say for us, trying to provide, especially as we have dates, launch dates for some of these programs that were in effect for a limited period of time, sharing in advance if there is documentation that might be required, sharing in advance what that documentation is that would be needed so that folks can gather their resources. If it is, like we had in some instances, an online process, ensuring that customers are aware of that so that they're not taking time to, go and try and fill out applications and then turn them in hard copy, just making them aware of what the process looks like, what resources they may need to apply. And there was a particular instance where we had an online application process, but you need a cell phone to receive a verification code to continue in the process and to complete it. Just sharing that information up front is helpful because someone may have a laptop, but they may not have a cell phone, or vice versa. Just sharing in advance as much information as you can so folks can arrange their resources and seek support if they need it from a family member or a friend. So we've tried to message those things on our website to assist customers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. If anyone has any questions, we are coming to the end of our webinar, so shoot those into the Q&A section. Otherwise, one more question here. Do your high bill communications differ between residential and business customers? If so, how?
That's a great question. Most of our efforts have been focused on our residential customers. I'm trying to think of an instance where we've messaged to our businesses, and I'm sorry, I'm hard pressed to think of one. There are probably Entergy folks on the call right now who are thinking of them, but I think our efforts are primarily focused on residential customers.
Wonderful.
Yes, for the most part, we have placed an emphasis on our residential customers, but we do have a small and medium business newsletter that has echoed the same energy efficiency sentiments. And we also did notify our business customers about a rate change that would impact them through an email and letter campaign. So again, keeping with the same theme of informing our customers and being transparent with them, we try to do that for our residential and commercial customers.
Absolutely. I know you both have mentioned throughout the webinar, transparency and collaboration. Those are key elements. So I definitely agree with you both. We did have one more question pop in here, so we will go ahead and answer this last one before we have to say goodbye. So the question is, how have you engaged with employees? Any feedback or engagement from colleagues with lived experience related to poverty? Who wants to kick
We've made a concerted effort to ensure that our employees were aware of the campaign. So just as much marketing as we had out, to the masses, you could also see it displayed on screens in conference rooms and on sliders on our intranet. So even internal social pages and feeds that we've had. And we're also engaging employees with volunteering to help with the weatherization of homes. So employees are definitely ambassadors for us, and they are the program in many instances. So we've done everything that we could to ensure that they are fully aware of every way that we are assisting.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. So for DLC, we do have council meetings every month with a bunch of different departments that discuss our customers and their attitudes and perceptions. And then a lot of those ideas do trickle down to those campaigns that we launched.
Perfect. Thank you both. All right, so we have run out of time today, unfortunately. Thank you, everybody, for those amazing questions. I know I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. If we did miss addressing your question, if any other questions come to mind, please reach out and we can follow up offline. First, thank you so much, Morgan and Shantel, for your insights and advice today on the high-bill communication strategies. This has been an amazing session. I have a lot of takeaways from today, and I'm sure our audience does as well. Speaking of, thank you as well, audience, for joining us today and for all of those fabulous questions. As a reminder, the presentation materials and the playback link to the recording of the webinar today will be emailed to you in a few days. Should you have, again, any additional questions or feedback, please don't hesitate to contact us. There will also be a brief survey at the conclusion of this event, so please don't close out your browser window. We would really appreciate your feedback. Our next webinar will be October 27th about how to segment and personalize utility customer communications. You can go ahead and register today on our website. So thank you again for attending, everybody, and have a fantastic day.